Hi, my name is Pulkit Singh and I am thrilled to present our work on deep prototype and exemplar models for predicting human behavior. This work was done at the Computational Cognitive Science Lab at Princeton University with my colleagues Josh Peterson, Rory Battleday, and Tom Griffiths. We're interested here in the problem of category learning. Let's say we have two face categories, A and B, and then we see a new stimulus. So, how do we decide to categorize it? The basis of almost all category learning models is the category representation, which is some way of describing the category. And the process of categorization then just asks which representation is more like our new example. So the question becomes, how do we represent categories? The standard pipeline in cognitive science is to first decide on a way to represent the stimuli themselves, perhaps using multidimensional scaling or a separate feature model. This results in a low-dimensional feature space. Here, we show the 5 faces of category A represented in this 2-dimensional feature space. Then, we want to find a way to represent the overall category in that space. One common type of category representation is the mean of its category or its prototype. This is marked with a cross in our feature space. So, if we have one prototype for each category A and B, and a new face to categorize marked with the gray dot, we assign the new face to the category with the nearest prototype. Another popular theory, called the exemplar model, treats a category as a set of memories and assigns category labels to the stimuli closest to the sum of all its members. So, we assign the category that is closest to the novel stimulus on average. These models work well when we have a suitable stimulus feature space. But representing more complex, high-dimensional stimuli is not so straightforward. Modern machine learning has its own interesting way of solving this, which is to learn stimulus representations instead of manually selecting features. The categorization is then done with linear boundaries in the learned feature space. If we compare this to the pipeline from cognitive science, the stimulus representation is usually simple and fixed. Then, categorization is done using representations as we discussed earlier. The advantage of the machine learning approach is that it actually coheres with findings in psychology, wherein we see that category learning affects feature learning. Indeed, it's not hard to imagine that people may learn to represent both stimuli and categories at the same time. The advantage of cognitive models, on the other hand, is that they're well-tested theories, and they explicitly represent the structures of the category in a generative fashion. So, our goal for this project was to combine the best of both. In other words, to learn both types of representations, for stimuli and for categories simultaneously. Another way of thinking about this is that we can learn the features that best support competing cognitive theories, and this allows us to compare them on equal footing when dealing with complex stimuli. Now that we understand the goal, we can now formalize these notions. Beginning with category learning, Bayes' rule tells us that the posterior distribution for a class C of I given a stimulus X is proportional to the prior, which represents the saliency of categories, and the likelihood, which encodes the strategy for representing categories, such as those corresponding to prototypes and exemplars. Assuming uniform priors for the categories, the likelihood, which is the probability of a stimulus given a class, determines categorization. This brings us to an important question. How do we choose the likelihood function? A first choice would be a simple Gaussian density. In this case, stimuli in each category are normally distributed with mean mu and covariance sigma. Then, the posterior becomes proportional to the exponentiated negative Mahalanobis distance given mu and sigma. This means that each category, in our case dogs, is defined by a single mean and covariance, and new stimuli are classified using the aforementioned distance metric. This probabilistically corresponds to the prototype models that we discussed earlier. On the other extreme, we consider a kernel density estimator. In this case, stimuli are arbitrarily distributed, and each category is represented by a normalized sum of kernel distributions over the stimulus space. With a Gaussian kernel, we end up considering Euclidean distances of each exemplar to the novel stimuli. In our dog example from earlier, a new dog is compared to every existing dog in memory before being categorized, and this corresponds to the exemplar theory that we discussed. The third and final approach we consider is an interpolation between the two previous extremes by varying the number of kernels per category. Prototype models only have one center per category, and exemplar models can be thought to have as many centers as existing exemplars. So, the path in the middle would be to vary the number of centers between 1 and the number of training examples, leading to a mixture of densities. This corresponds to a Gaussian mixture model. So, to recap, the three different ideas for the functional form of the likelihood corresponds to three different categorization strategies: prototype, exemplar, and Gaussian mixture respectively. Now that we have fleshed out our categorization models, we can consider our strategy for integrating stimulus representation learning in this paradigm. In our case, stimulus representation learning constitutes finding a mapping from natural images to feature vectors, which can then be used as input to categorization models. We call this mapping phi of x. And since we want to integrate stimuli and category learning, we are now interested in the likelihood of class C of I given the featurized inputs phi of x. Luckily for us, it is standard practice in the machine learning paradigm to learn exactly this kind of transformation in the form of convolutional neural networks. These models repeatedly convolve and pool features to learn spatial maps, and the representations they create have proven to be remarkably efficient and robust. Thus, we have a full schematic. Our model uses convolution and pooling layers to learn feature vectors over natural images. These are passed on to the categorization machinery, which produces the likelihoods that determine categorization decisions. It is important to note that our system is end-to-end, so the error signal in the training context is back-propagated through the categorization and the feature learning layers of our network, which allows for integrated learning. Alright, so let's get into the specifics of our experiments. We select two CNN architectures to serve as the basis of our deep categorization models, ResNet and AllCNN. They're both low parameter, stable, and high accuracy, and they both train quickly, which makes them suitable for repeated experiments. We also use each unmodified architecture as a baseline model, with the original fully connected classification layer at the end. The first of our categorization models is the deep prototype model. We learn a mean and a covariance for each category in this setup, and constraints in the covariance matrix end up producing a nested range of models. As shown on the table on the right, an identity covariance means that each category is a uniform sphere in feature space. Similarly, a scale identity produces variable size spheres, while a diagonal covariance produces axis-aligned ellipsoids. Next, we have the deep Gaussian mixture models and the deep exemplar models. The Gaussian mixture models are implemented as multi-center prototype models, with a number of centers ranging from 2 to 2,500. Similarly, the deep exemplar models are trained as Gaussian mixture models with as many centers as exemplars in the training data. For this project, we use CIFAR-10, which is a popular but tractable image categorization benchmark from computer vision. It has 50,000 training and 10,000 validation images across 10 categories. And perhaps most importantly, it allows for a rigorous comparison to an existing large human behavior dataset, CIFAR-10H. This dataset comprises of a full label distribution of human categorization judgments for the CIFAR-10 validation set. 10-way classification judgments from 50 subjects for each image yields probability distributions that reflect human uncertainty at an image level. Thus, cross-entropy between this distribution of human judgments and model activations provides an objective metric for similarity to human behavior. We follow the standard ML paradigm of the model learning on the training data and being evaluated on the held-out validation set. In addition, we compare baseline and deep categorization model performance on fit to human uncertainty using the CIFAR-10H data. So, the models never see the human data during training, we only use it as an evaluation metric. Now, on to the exciting part, results. For all results, we report the best and average of 10 training runs for each of our models. First, we're interested in validation accuracy. Here, higher scores are better. We see that all but one of our 10 models outperform the standard CNN baseline on accuracy, with the deep Gaussian mixture model scoring highest. As accuracy gains are not trivial for well-studied architectures, these are encouraging results. Since we are primarily interested in human behavior, the main success criteria is loss on CIFAR-10H. Here, lower scores are better. We find that all of our models outperform the neural network baselines, but with a much greater improvement, particularly for the DGMMs and DEMs. We find that our results are comparable to the original authors of CIFAR-10H, but with considerably less human intervention and absolutely no fine-tuning. This is encouraging as it indicates that encoding category representations that correspond to cognitive theories in a deep learning context produces more human-like distributions of judgments. Compared to the baseline, our models are both more accurate and a better fit to human uncertainty. While our models contain more parameters, the complexity of each model does not appear to be related to performance, since the most complex DPMs and the most complex multi-center models were not the best models. To better understand the effect of our architectural changes, we also explore the optimal number of centers per category. To maximize accuracy, roughly 25 centers are optimal, and to maximize fit to human uncertainty, less than half of that are needed. This suggests that both can be maximized with a number of centers in that range and indicates that the GMM models of category learning, a middle ground between the infamously opposed prototype and exemplar models, may best model joint human feature and category representations for natural images. We also visualize representations and centers using the TSNE for two illustrative model classes, identity covariance DPMs and a DGMM with 100 centers per class. DPMs appear largely unimodal as expected, and DGMMs exhibit an interesting and non-degenerate pattern. Centers are reasonably spread out, sometimes in nonlinear shapes and multimodal clusters, and they're not always located at the center of class members. To sum up, we propose a probabilistic framework for incorporating feature learning into classic accounts of category learning, including prototype, exemplar, and Gaussian mixture models. We find that most of our models increase validation accuracy, and they all produce predictions that better match people. It was a pleasure to share our work. Thank you for your time.